I'm Dr. Scott Fuller. On this segment, we're going to talk about sitting ergonomics, meaning how you use your body and how you manage yourself, particularly with prolonged sitting. And this is especially for people that have sit-down jobs where you're doing a lot of sitting. My book, Happy Back, by the way, that came out in 2007, you can find that on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Moby Pocket, and Kindle. I have chapters in there on sitting and standing and do this and don't do that. Anyways, that's a good book for this. But let me get into some of the basics. Sitting ergonomics. The key now is frequent breaks, and frequent breaks early on during the day. So let's say I have a computer job and I'm sitting 8 hours a day, okay? What we need is frequent breaks. It could be every 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or 30 minutes. You pick the frequency that you want, set it, and work with it. Now you can obviously change that over time as well. Why do we need these frequent sitting breaks? Our discs and joints in our spine don't like being sat on and compressed without motion for a long period of time. That's similar to letting your car sit overnight and all the oil drains out of the engine into the pan. So the first start in the morning, the oil has to kind of get through all the moving parts, and then you're ready to go, right? Well, when you sit all day, it squeezes the fluid out of the joints and the discs, and that's why when you get up after sitting for a while, you're really stiff. That's why first thing in the morning when you get out of bed, that's probably not where you're going to set your personal sprinting record at 6 in the morning, right? So you want to get up and move around and warm your tissues and joints up before you do those types of things. Motion is the key. That's what we're going to get into now. And let me give you one example. One of my patients was a computer programmer. He was sitting for 8-10 hours a day. He said, at the end of the day, my back is killing me. So I worked with him with chiropractic and chiropractic adjustments, which made a good change, but he still said my back hurts at the end of the day. Now, he was taking 2-minute breaks every hour. I had him take that 2-minute worth of breaks, split into 4 30-second breaks every 15 minutes, you see? So he was getting up more frequently, no extra break time, but more frequently, and he said that made all the difference in the world. My back doesn't hurt anymore. So here we are sitting, and we want to take a lot of breaks. So in a moment, I'll tell you how to remember how to take these breaks. Let's say it's every 20 minutes. Let's make these breaks with a purpose. You're going to get up, and let's say your breaks are just 10 seconds, okay? You're going to get up and do some spinal twisting. Now, I have another YouTube video that you can look at as well, which goes over these spine exercises so you can do it safely and check with your doctor and all these types of things. So you might do 3 or 4 of these each side and then sit back down and go back to work. 20 minutes later, you stand up, do something different. Maybe bend side to side. Of course, if your workplace, if this is appropriate and so forth, maybe you need to go to the bathroom or conference room or whatever to do these. Do 3 or 4 of those. Sit down, go to work. Next, 20 minutes you get up and do something else. Maybe a neck back extension exercise like this one, which I've demonstrated on other YouTube videos and in my book. You hold that one for 10 seconds to stretch out the neck and shoulders, and then sit back and go back to work. Another break. If this is appropriate for you, maybe you're going to do a forward fold. So you bend forward like this and stretch your hamstrings. And when I do this one, by the way, I like having my knees slightly bent, okay? Some of you yogis might do it with your legs straight, but I might do this with the knees bent and hold that stretch for 10 seconds if that's comfortable and appropriate. Sit back down, go to work. 20 minutes later, maybe you do one of those hurdler stretches, where you put your foot up on something like this, like a desk or a chair, and just kind of stretch your hamstring and rear end muscles. Maybe 5 or 10 seconds on that side, 5 or 10 seconds on this side, like so, okay? And then sit back down and go back to work. Then you get up again and maybe do another runner's type of stretch like this and stretch the hamstrings and go over to the other side like this and sit back down. Another one could be a calf stretch. You put your foot up on something like this and stretch your calves like you've been taught about that you want to do on airplanes and sit back down and go back to work. Maybe you need to do something as silly as jumping jacks. So you stand up and you do 10 jumping jacks like this, if this is appropriate in your workplace, of course, and sit back down. You see? So I just gave you 8 or 10 different exercises that you can do as your breaks, and you would just rotate through those as time goes along. There's hundreds and thousands of things that you can do during that time, but give your sitting breaks here a purpose. Don't just get up and stand up like this because Fuller told you to do so. Get up and actually move the spine and body and get some stretching going on and go for a walk and so on and so forth. Okay? So, how do you remember how to take these breaks? How are we going to know that we want to take a break every 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes? You need a reminder. So on a PC, maybe you're going to do Microsoft Outlook and set up this constant meeting reminder every 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes. It just keeps going off, and you have to reset it and get up and do your stretches. Maybe you do iCal on a Mac. Set a watch. Set your cell phone. Whatever that increment that you want to experiment with, do it. Remember that you want to do this from hour 1. When you get into work at 8 in the morning, whatever it is, at 8:20, you're taking your first break. Don't make the mistake, which all of us do, which is you work for 2 or 3 hours, then you start feeling crummy and your neck hurts and you get a headache and you get the carpal tunnel pins and needles tingling down the arms and your back is stiff and sore. You've already lost the game for that day and then you're trying to play catch up. Start with the breaks from hour 1 and move forward. All right, what do we do with a car? In a car, if you're going to be taking an extended trip, here's what I do. Let's say I'm going to take a 5-hour car trip. Typically, you're going to get out once or twice, right? What I do is I get out every hour for 2 minutes. Now, hear me out. Here's what I do. Pull over at a rest stop. I take a brisk walk for 1 minute, and then I do a few of these spine stretches. I'll do 2 or 3 of those, 2 or 3 of these, right? One of these neck extensions, boom, back in the car, off I go. 2 minutes. Next hour, start looking around for a place to pull over. I get out, I do the same thing. Nice brisk walk for a minute, do a couple of spine stretches, back in the car. So that's 4 breaks for a 5-hour trip, a total of 8 minutes. And you were probably going to stop once anyways for 2 or 4 minutes. So I've just doubled the amount of breaks. But instead of showing up after 5 hours and being crippled and stiff and tight and grumpy, right? Now you're going to show up and your spine is actually going to feel pretty well. Even though my back does really great most of the time, if you stuff me into a car for 5 hours and don't let me move, my back's going to hurt too. So I've learned to take these frequent breaks. The same thing with a plane. When you're traveling on the plane, what I do is I get an aisle seat, if I can, and every hour I get up and move around and stretch. If somebody next to me needs to get up, no problem. I'll get up for them and let them go. And of course, I'm in the aisle doing stretches and people look at me kind of funny and stuff and I don't care. Or I'll go to the flight attendant station and I'll end up doing some of these stretches that I've been showing you along the way. Can't tell you how many flight attendants I've shown these exercises to because they'll come back and say, wow, those look like good stretches. What are you doing? And I explain to them I'm a chiropractor and I work on spine problems. And 3 hours later, I have the entire plane doing all these spine exercises together. I'm leading the calisthenics and stuff. So that's the way we should do that. You manage your traveling like that as well, in the car and when you're flying. In an office situation, if it's appropriate, some of my patients have traded in their chair for a large exercise ball, or you can alternate between the two. This isn't appropriate for everyone, but if you get one of those really large exercise balls where it's high enough so if you're sitting down here like this, right? If you're sitting down, you still would have your knees bent like this. You don't want it too small where you're all crunched up like this. You want it high enough where you're sitting up like this. Now it's a ball that you can continue moving around like this. Some people have completely eliminated their office chair and they've replaced it with a ball. Other people go back and forth from a firm chair to a large exercise ball. So you can start doing these exercises and moving around. And again, your discs and joints love that kind of activity on the exercise ball. As you continue doing this moving around and taking breaks, particularly doing this neck extension exercise, you're going to reduce your chance of having these carpal tunnel and tennis elbow problems as well, oftentimes coming from the neck and being stuck in this position all day long like this, right? So this causes a lot of these carpal tunnel and tennis elbow stuff by compressing and irritating the nerves up here in the neck area as well. Okay. Now, for some of you, these exercises and sitting management or sitting ergonomics is not going to be enough to take care of your headaches, migraines, neck pain, carpal tunnel, tennis elbow, upper back problems, lower back trouble, and leg pain. Although I get into this with all of my patients, you might have to get into this a little bit further. You might need a chiropractic evaluation to look at your spine and find out why you have ongoing issues, and then chiropractic adjustments and additional exercises can help you. I specifically and tailor make these for my patients when they come up, particularly with the adults. You might need some dietary modifications. You might have an inflammatory type of dietary habit right now. You need to move towards anti-inflammatory foods, and possibly some supplements will help you as well. I'm Dr. Scott Fuller. Please join me again.